Here is unit number 3. So unit number 3 is analog to digital and digital to analog converter. That means ADC and DAC we are going to discuss here in unit number 3. Very important topic related to circuit design. Why? Because in most of the application, it is compulsory to convert the signal. Conversion of the signal from analog form to the digital form and reconvert the signal from digital to analog form. That depends on for which particular application actually we are using this circuit. Suppose if we want to convert the voice signal or we want to transmit the voice signal to a larger distance, on that condition, first of all, we need to convert that voice signal into the quantized form. So there is some quantization process, but that is basically the part of the communication system. So now we are not going to discuss we are going to cover that particular part over here. Basically in linear integrated circuit only we are concentrating on the circuit designing part. So here in analog to digital and digital to analog converter, we will see different kind of the circuit which are generally used for the conversion of these signals. So this unit starts with the digital to analog converter. Then after that we will discuss the analog to digital. But before that, the basic process for the conversion of the signal is sample and hold. How to sample the signal and how the circuit will hold the data. So the first topic in the syllabus of unit number 3 is sample and hold circuit. So here is the syllabus of unit number 3 in analog to digital and digital to analog converter. Very first topic is sample and hold circuit and the IC which is generally used for sampling and holding process. So the IC number for sampling and holding is LF398. So this particular IC is basically used for sample and hold circuits. It's an 8-pin IC. We will discuss here what is the pin configuration and symbol of this LF398. So LF398 is basically a sample and hold IC. Now the second part of unit number 3 is DAC, digital to analog converter. So there are basically 3 types of the digital to analog converter we will discuss here, or mainly we will use only these 3 types of the DAC. Whereas the first DAC is called as binary weighted register type network. Binary weighted type digital to analog converter. In all the 3 different kinds of the DAC, so one by one we will discuss these topics. Then each is having some problem, each is having some disadvantage. That's why only we are moving further from one type to another. So in binary weighted register type, what is the basic problem with this binary weighted? There are a large number of register values are used, where the value of the register is in the form of 2 to the power n. So let's suppose the value of input digital bit is 8 bit. Now the number of digital input is 8 bit. On that condition, what would be the size of the register? 2 to the power 8. And in case of the 2 to the power 8, it's equivalent to 2 to the 255. So suppose if the value of first register is 1 kilo ohm, then the last register will be of 255 ohm. And if the value of first register is 10 ohm, then that would be 2550 ohm. So it's not practical to use this kind of the circuit. So that was the basic problem with binary weighted register type DAC. That's why we have moved further to R2R ladder network. In case of the R2R ladder network, only 2 kind of the register value we need to use. One is R and second one is 2R. So if the value of first register is 10 kilo ohm, then the value of second resistance will be 20 kilo ohm. So with the help of this 10 and 20 kilo ohm resistor only, we can perform the operation. We can perform the conversion process. So that is the advantage of R2R ladder network in place of binary weighted register type. Now the third one is inverter ladder. In case of the inverter ladder, we work on the principle of current. R2R works on the principle of voltage. Inverted R2R ladder network works on the principle of current. Then the Last topic is different specification of digital to analog. So these are the topics which we are going to cover in digital to analog conversion. Now the last part of this unit is analog to digital converter. So in analog to digital converter, first analog to digital is parallel comparator type. This parallel comparator is also called as the flash type. So it is the fastest analog to digital converter for the conversion process. So where we want actually the speed, when the prime requirement for the conversion process is speed, then the first choice will be parallel comparator or flash type only. Then the second one is dual slope. Dual slope is having the accuracy is very good, but the process is slow. So when the requirement is accuracy, but we may compromise with the speed, then you need to choose dual slope type analog to digital converter. Then the third one is successive approximation type. Successive approximation is easiest type. It's also having the speed, it's also having the accuracy. So it comes in between parallel comparator and dual slope type analog to digital converter. Then another one is voltage to time and voltage to frequency converter. So mainly in analog to digital converter, we will discuss 5 different kinds of the ADC: parallel comparator, dual slope, successive approximation, voltage to time, and voltage to frequency converter. And at last, we will discuss the specification of this analog to digital converter. So these are the topics basically we are going to cover in unit number 3. So now today we are going to discuss first topic of unit number 3, that is sample and hold circuit and sample to hold IC LF398. So what is sample and hold circuit? So figure shows through 2 different kinds of the circuits are over here. This one is the circuit connection or the IC of sample and hold circuit, which is called as the LF398. And in right hand side, figure number 2 is the pin configuration of this sample and hold IC. So as you can see over here, sample and hold IC is having the 8 pins. In case of the IC 741, there was also 8 pins, but only 7 pins were used in case of the IC 741. Pin number 8 was not used. But here in case of the sample and hold circuit, all the 8 pins are used. We need to use all the 8 pins as per the requirement. Where pin number 1 and pin number 4 is basically used for giving the supply voltage to the sample and hold circuit. Where pin number 1 is for positive supply voltage and pin number 4 is for negative supply voltage. With the help of pin number 3 and pin number 8, with the help of pin number 3 and pin number 8, we can give the input. With the help of pin number 3 and 8, we can give the input, where pin number 3 is basically used for the input analog signal, input sinusoidal signal, variable signal. So if we are having some input signal, if we want to supply some signal into sample and hold circuit, so that signal must be applied with the help of pin number 3 only. What is pin number 8? With the help of pin number 8, we will apply the logic. Logic for comparison purpose. So with the help of pin number 8, we will supply the logic of the control signal. Pin number 7 is used as a logic reference. With the help of pin number 6, we will connect the hold capacitance. Pin number 6 is to be used to connect hold capacitance or the capacitor. Why? Because in case of the sample and hold circuit, main parameter is the capacitor. Why? Because only the capacitor will charge and capacitor will only hold the charges. So charging and holding, that will be done with the help of capacitor only. So that capacitor will be connected at pin number 6. Pin number 2 is given here for the offset adjustment purpose. If there is any kind of the offset requirement into the circuit, so that signal can be applied with the help of pin number 2, and pin number 5 is used for getting the output with sample and hold circuit. So this is the pin configuration of LF398 sample and hold IC. In left hand side of this figure, it is easily detectable that you can see from here, with the help of this pin number 3, we are supplying the input sinusoidal waveform. So pin number 3 is for input signal. With the help of this pin number 8, we are supplying the logic input. Pin number 6 is connected with holding capacitor. With the help of pin number 5, we are getting the output. And this pin number 1 and 4 is used for supply voltage. So this is how we may connect the IC with different kinds of the input signal, logic input signal, output terminal, and capacitance values. One important thing in case of the sample and hold circuit, I have mentioned over here the crucial point related to this. That is basically related to the efficiency of sample and hold circuit. So to maintain, please remember this, to maintain the efficiency of sample and hold circuit, it is very much important to observe the frequency. It's compulsory to observe the frequency whenever you are concentrating on the efficiency. So when you want to increase the efficiency, which parameter you need to remember? About the frequency. Continuously you need to observe the frequency. What you need to observe in frequency? So there are two different input voltage. One is control voltage and second one is input voltage. Both is having the frequency. But what should be the value of that frequency? So the frequency of the control voltage should be greater than the frequency of the control voltage should be greater than the frequency of the input voltage. So that must be applied in case of sample and hold circuit. What is this? The frequency of the control voltage should be greater than the frequency of the input voltage, so that the analog signal can be sampled twice in a complete cycle. And on that condition, we will get the better output. So for increasing or maintaining the efficiency of the sample and hold circuit, what is the requirement? The frequency of the control voltage must be greater than the frequency of the input voltage. I hope that would be clear to you. Now moving further to sample and hold circuit. How this circuit works related to this sample and hold circuit. Here, this is one kind of the circuit I am drawing here. This is input sinusoidal waveform. This is a switch. This is a holding capacitor. And actually here we are getting the output. This is the simplest form of the sample and hold circuit. So what is this? This is a switch. This one is the input sinusoidal waveform. This one is the capacitance. So how this circuit will work? So there are two different positions of the switch. Either the switch will be open or the switch will be closed. So when the switch is in short circuited condition or when the switch is in closed condition, when the switch is in closed condition, only on that time the capacitor will charge. When the switch is closed, now the capacitor will charge. And how the capacitor will charge? Capacitor will charge instantaneously with the input sinusoidal waveform. So whatever will be the voltage of the input signal, with the help of same voltage the capacitor will charge. Now suppose the switch is now in open condition. So when the switch is in open condition, there would be no any connection in between this capacitor and input sinusoidal waveform. So on that condition, what the capacitor will do? Now as per the behavior of the capacitor will try to discharge. The capacitor will try to discharge. But this path is open. This path is also open. That means the capacitor is not having any path for discharging purpose. So the capacitor will hold the charges. So when the switch is in closed condition, the capacitor will charge. That means capacitor will sample the data. That means the capacitor will sample the data. So the time duration during which the capacitor is charging, that particular time is called as the sampling time. The time duration during which the capacitor is charging, that particular time is called as the sampling timing. and the time duration during which the switch is in open condition. The time duration during which the switch is in open condition and the capacitor is holding the charges, whatever it has been stored during the sampling time, that particular time is called as the holding time. So there are two different time periods in case of the sample and hold circuit. First time period is called as the sampling time, when the capacitor is charging, and second time period is called as the holding time, during which the capacitor holds the charges, and total time duration is denoted as T, at T is equal to Ts plus Th. T is equal to what? Ts plus Th, where S denotes the sampling time and H for holding time, and the combination of Ts and Th is equal to total time period of the sample and hold circuit. So this is the basic operation of the sample and hold circuit. Now let us discuss the actual circuit which is connected over here. So we may divide this circuit into the three parts. This circuit can be divided into the three parts. First part, let us divide. This is the first part. Now this one is the second part. Let me clear this thing first of all. Then that would be clear to you now. That would be much better clear to all of you. So from here to there, this is the first stage or the first part of the circuit. This is called as input buffer stage. What is the name of this? It can be called as input buffer. Input buffer. What is the second circuit? Second is basic sample and hold circuit. The actual basic sample and hold circuit is what? This second part is only the sampling and holding circuit, where this E MOSFET is acting like a switch. This is the gate signal and this one is the capacitor. As I told you earlier that what is the basic requirement of the sample and hold circuit. So first part is input buffer. Second part is basic sample and hold circuit. And what is this third part? Third part is output buffer. Third part is what? Output buffer. I think you know how to design the buffer circuit. Think how to design the buffer. Buffer is a simple voltage follower circuit, na? So this one is the clear to you. First one. This is output. This is non-inverting terminal. This one is, this figure is not, I think, that much clear to all of you. But try to write this thing. At non-inverting terminal, we are supplying the input sinusoidal waveform. So from here, this is a basic input buffer circuit. So whatever will be the voltage at the non-inverting terminal, same voltage you will get at the output terminal of the operational amplifier due to this voltage follower action. As you know, this non-inverting terminal voltage must be equal to the inverting terminal voltage, due to the concept of virtual ground. So if this is Vin, at this terminal also the value of voltage is Vin, and that is connected to output, so output is also equal to Vin. So it's an input buffer. So what is the requirement of this input buffer? For avoid loading into the source. What is the requirement of this input buffer circuit? For removing the loading into the source. So for that purpose only we are connecting here the input buffer circuit. It's simply I think that is very much simply you are connecting here one Vin source, but actually this is a connection with the help of operational amplifier. In actual circuit, there is one input buffer circuit in the form of voltage follower, where with the help of non-inverting terminal voltage, actually we are supplying the input sinusoidal waveform. With the help of non-inverting terminal, actually we are supplying the input sinusoidal waveform. And what is the requirement of that? To avoid loading into the source. Now the second one is sample and hold circuit. We will discuss, we will go on that after that. Then the third one is output buffer. What is the requirement of the output buffer? To avoid loading into the capacitance. Why? Because the input for this output buffer is total voltage stored across this capacitor. To avoid loading of this capacitance, we connect the output buffer. So basically this sample and hold circuit is divided into three different parts. First is input buffer, second one is sample and hold circuit, and the third one is output buffer circuit. Now moving further to the operation of this circuit. So as per the operation, let me finish. What is this? This is a switch. This is what? This is a switch, and as a switch we may use the BJT or the MOSFET or FET. These can be used as a switch. Basically here we are using the BiFET as a switch. In case of the sample and hold circuit, what we use the BiFET as a switch. Why? Because BiFET is having the extreme impedance, extreme input impedance, and that is very good for the avoid loading into the source. That's why the switch is which type? Switches. Here we are using the switch as an N-channel eMOSFET type switch we are using over here. Which type of? BiFET. It's a BiFET switch, and BiFET is having extreme input impedance. What is the advantage of this BiFET switch? It is having the extreme input impedance. And how the switch will open and close, that depends on the level of this control voltage. At the gate terminal of this MOSFET, we are supplying the control voltage, where there are two different levels of this control voltage. One is 0, second one is 1. So when the level of this control voltage is 1, on that condition, N-channel eMOSFET will be in short circuited condition. Now we are moving further to the operation partner. So we concentrated over here. When the level of this control voltage is 1, on that condition, this E-channel MOSFET will be short circuited, and when E-channel MOSFET is short circuited, there is a direct connection in between input sinusoidal voltage and the capacitors. So due to that input sinusoidal voltage, the capacitor will charge. As I told you, when the switch will be in short circuited condition, there will be the direct connection in between capacitance and input voltage, and due to that voltage the capacitor will charge. Now when the level of the input control voltage is 0, on that condition the switch will be in open circuited condition, and when switch is open, on that condition there would be no any relationship in between capacitance. Now, what the capacitor will do? There is no any path for the discharging of the capacitor. Why? Because it's here also input. Capacitor will try to discharge the current for discharging purpose, but due to high impedance in both the sides, here it is open circuited, here it is infinite impedance. Due to that, the capacitor will not be able to discharge any current, and the capacitor will hold the data, hold the charges. Now again, when the input control voltage will be high, the switch will be short circuited. Now the capacitor will charge. So this is the process by which the sample and hold circuit works. Here in the right hand side, it shows the waveform of the sample and hold circuit. This is your input sinusoidal waveform. This is your control voltage Vs, which is being supplied to this circuit, this one. When the level of this input voltage is Vp, peak input voltage, on that condition, eMOSFET is in on condition. When eMOSFET is on, this is the output now. Output, that means the total voltage across the capacitor. It shows the voltage across the capacitor. It can be, I think, written as VH. This is the voltage across the capacitor. So when eMOSFET is in on condition, we are getting the output, or the capacitor is charging. You can see here, in this particular time, the capacitor is charging as same as the input sinusoidal waveform. But when the gate signal is low, on that condition, MOSFET is off. On that condition, MOSFET is off. When MOSFET is off, there is no any connection in between input voltage and the capacitor. Due to that, the capacitor will what do? It holds the data. So actual the signal should flow from this particular path now, but due to that the capacitor is holding the charges. I think to erase this one. So from here to there, you can see the capacitor is charging as same as the input sinusoidal waveform, but when E MOSFET is in off condition, capacitor hold the data. So the output is constant. Why output is constant? Whatever will be the voltage across the capacitor in this time, here in this time also the value of voltage is same. Why? Because input voltage is 0 now. So when there is no any voltage, whatever will be the voltage across the capacitor, same voltage it will draw at the output. Why it is drawing the same voltage? It's a buffer circuit, na? So whatever will be the voltage over here due to virtual ground, same voltage will be at this terminal. So here if the value of voltage is VH, so here also the value of voltage will be VH, and this is connected to output. So output terminal also connected to VH. That means same voltage we are getting at the output. Now again when the level of this control voltage is 1, when again the value of this control voltage is 1, on that condition, now again the input voltage source is connected to the capacitor. Now the capacitor is again charging, but it is moving towards a negative direction. So this is the total charge across the capacitor. Again here, when control voltage is 0, whatever will be the charge across the capacitor in this time, same charge will stored over here. So this particular time is what? This is the time period during which the capacitor is charging. This is called as the sampling time. Better to write over here. This is sampling time. So time duration during which the capacitor is charging with the help of input sinusoidal waveform, that particular time is called as the sampling time, which is also called as the acquisition time. The sampling time is also called as acquisition time. And the second time period during which the capacitor holds the data, that particular time is called as the holding time, TH. And total time duration is called as the sampling and holding time. So I hope that particular operation will be clear to all of you. That completely depends on the value of on and off of the switch. When switch is closed, capacitor will charge, capacitor will sample the data. When switch is off, capacitor will not connected to the input voltage source, it will hold the same data whatever it was having before the when the switch is open circuit. So this is the basic operation of sample and hold circuit. This is written, whatever I told you, that is written over here. When a pulse is applied to the gate, FET switches on and capacitor is charged equal to the input voltage source during a specific time period, that is called as sampling period or acquisition time. Many times, most of the examination, it can be asked with you, what do you mean by the acquisition time? So sampling time is called as the acquisition time, and the capacitor should charge instantly with the input voltage source. That's why the value of this acquisition time should be as low as possible. That should be equal to 0.1 second. Why? Because it should direct response to the input voltage source. So the acquisition time should be as low as possible. In general, it's 0.1 per second. Now on removal of the pulse of the gate, FET is off. When FET is off, capacitor will hold the charges. And how it can hold the charges? When the value of impedance should be very high, then only it can hold the charges. Otherwise, the capacitor will discharge now. But we don't want to discharge the capacitor. When the capacitor will not discharge, only on that condition it can hold the charges. That's why the input impedance should be very high. And it should be long as TH. Now, what is the formula for the calculation of acquisition time? So, T is equal to RC. T is equal to what? T is equal to RC, but R is what? RS plus RD on time resistance, on time internal resistance. So, CS into RS plus RD on. That is the formula for the calculation of acquisition time. Many times in the calculation part, you need this particular formula. So, we remember this one. TS is equal to CS, RS plus RD on. Now, the third one is which kind of the MOSFET or the switch we are using here? We are using the BiFET op-amp. Why BiFET op-amp? Its input impedance is very high or extremely high. Its input impedance is extremely high. That's why as a switch we are using the BiFET op-amp. Now the fourth one is next important consideration is which type of the capacitor we should use. Why we are concentrating on the capacitor? Capacitor is whole sole important component of the sample and hold circuit. Let's suppose what we have seen over here during the holding time, total voltage or the charge stored across the capacitor is constant. Why it's constant? Because we assume that there is no any kind of the leakage into the capacitor. But suppose there is some leakage. When there is a leakage, then the voltage across the capacitor will not be constant. So we don't want this thing. So capacitor should be designed with better component. So which kind of the material we are using for the design of the capacitor? So basically we are using the Teflon or polyethylene for the design of holding capacitor. It's very important. Which material type capacitor we are using for the design of the holding capacitor? So that material is either Teflon or polyethylene coating. So that films are basically used for the design of the capacitor. And its value should be 0.1 microfarad. Why we are using this? For low leakage resistance. It's having a minimum leakage resistance. So leakage should not be there. Leakage should not be there. Then only on that condition the holding charge would be constant. And it's simple that if the value of input voltage is varying type, sample voltage will also be having the slopes, low and high. One important parameter is droop rate. And that droop rate is related to this leakage. So ideally, the sampled voltage should remain without loss. Ideally, whatever will be the sampled voltage, that there should not be having any kind of the loss. But due to finite resistance of the input, there is some loss is present. But there is loss due to some finite resistance of the input. That loss is called as the droop rate. That is called as the droop rate, and its value is 30 millivolts per second. So ideally the sampled voltage should be lossless, but due to finite resistance of the input, there is some loss, that is called as the droop rate, and its value is 30 millivolts per second. It can also be defined as change in output voltage with respect to time. That is also called as the droop rate. So dV0 by dt or I by CH, by this also we may calculate the value of droop rate. So this particular formula you may use for the calculation of droop rate. Another parameter is aperture time. Aperture time is also called as the delay time, where this delay occurs. So whenever we are when we make the MOSFET off condition, so it will not instantly off. It takes some time for getting in off condition. When we remove the gate pulse, then instantaneously the sample and hold circuit will not be off. It takes some time to getting off. That is called as the aperture time. So aperture is the delay or reaction time for the FET switch to turn off by removal of the control signal on gate. So that particular time duration is called as the aperture time. Its value is 100 nanosecond and less. Ideally that should be minimum or 0, but practically its value is 100 nanosecond and less. Because of the delay, sample voltage may be little higher than what it should be. If it will off instantaneously, then the sample voltage will be precise, whatever will be the requirement, but it takes some time. That's why the sample voltage is little high. So this is aperture time. Now, what are the performance parameter of the sample and hold circuit? So there are 4 different performance parameters we can say over here. First, already I think we have discussed about this. First is acquisition time. So just remember this first one is acquisition time. What is this? So the capacitor to get the charge of the input voltage applied to the sample and hold circuit. So the time requirement for the capacitor to charge of the input voltage, that is called as the acquisition time. What is aperture time? So aperture time is defined as the time required by the capacitor to change its state from sampling to holding time. So the time requirement for changing the state from sampling to holding time, that is called as the aperture time. Third one is droop voltage. Droop voltage is voltage drop down in the capacitor due to leakage of the charge by the capacitor. So I think in this figure it is clear. In ideal condition, that hold voltage should be constant. In ideal condition, that hold voltage should be constant. This is a time period for the holding time. No? So in ideal condition, this holding voltage should be constant. But due to leakage into the capacitor, you can see that there is discharging into the value of capacitor voltage. And this discharging is what? Due to leakage in the capacitor is only. So that is basically a droop voltage. That is the droop voltage. And hold mode, setting mode. So after the generation of the holding command, the analog input voltage which is used by the capacitor for charging takes some time to settle down. Capacitor takes some time to settle down. That particular time period is called as the hold mode settling time. So these are some performance parameters of sample and hold circuit. Now what are the advantage? So hold the sample analog input voltage constant during the conversion time. That is the prime requirement of the sample and hold circuit. Second one, to reduce crosstalk into the multiplexer. If there would not be any kind of the error, if the whole data is constant, there would not be any kind of the possibility for the crosstalk. And the third one is in multi-channel ADCs. Synchronization can be achieved by sampling signal from channel at the same time. So these are the basic advantages of sample and hold circuit. And the application areas are digital interfacing in analog to digital conversion circuits, pulse modulation system, reset stabilization op-amp in analog demultiplexer. So no need to remember all these things. Just remember, whenever we need to sample the data for the conversion of this signal. So whenever the particular application needs this thing, there is the application of the sample and hold circuit. There is the application of the sample and hold circuit. Whenever we want some constant data at the output after the sample. So this is all about sample and hold circuit. So today we have discussed about the sample and hold IC LF398, basic pin diagram of that IC, then the circuit connection of the sample and hold circuit, different waveform generated by the sample and hold circuit and its operation. So this is all about the today's lecture. So now we are completing this lecture with this topic only. In our next lecture, we will start the digital to analog converter, starting with binary weighted type digital to analog converter. So this is all about today. So after the completion of this, now I am going to send you the link for the quiz. So attempt that quiz, and the time period for that quiz will be 10 minutes. That will start at 10:45 and that will end on 10:55. So thank you so much for today.